There are 6 different types of communication. So there's inform. So I need to inform someone or a group. I need to persuade. I need to inspire. So I need to tap into the hearts and minds of those individuals. I need to entertain is another one. I need to activate is actually the word.
There you go. Yeah. Welcome back to the Wits Podcast. Once again, we have a wicked guest and a show today. We have Mr. Nick Kindler, CEO, keynote speaker, author, communication coach, eternal entrepreneur, and Nick is extremely passionate about innovation and communication. And today, Nick is head of programming at Singularity U Canada, a global learning and innovation community using exponential technologies to tackle the world's biggest challenges and build an abundant future for all. We are going to have a great conversation today about communication, the importance of prepping and planning for our presentations and meetings and interactions. We're going to learn a little bit about storytelling. You're going to give us a little bit about your opinion, and you might just share some examples and experiences along the way. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here. It's a real privilege and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. And we were chatting earlier and I was saying, I've never actually sat down with another communication expert. And, I'm really looking forward to today's conversation.
Me too.
You're an amazing keynote speaker. You're an author, specifically a very extraordinary communication coach. You've been really practicing this in your own business and with clients for years. You're an entrepreneur. So I just want to wrap with you today and get a little bit of your perspective around things like what does it take to communicate well? What does it mean when we communicate towards our goals? I want to get some of your advice. I want to get some of your tips. And I know that our audience is going to benefit from it. So again, thanks for being here, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, so let's start with the big question, communication, because communication is a big topic, right? I think in a lot of cases, this is where a lot of things go wrong in business, in leadership, in marriage, in parenting, and friendship, is miscommunication. So why don't you start with a little bit of what is effective communication? What does it take to communicate well? Just give us an overview of sort of the things we need to know about it. What is it and what is it not?
Communication can be so many things to so many people, and I think you've already kind of, even in your question, you outlined some of the things that it can be is, it can be wrapped up in relationships, it can be wrapped up in decisions and actions that we take in. Of course, it's very much, I'm assuming many of the listeners to your podcast and viewers of your podcast are leaders, so it's wrapped up in leadership. Right. I actually do believe that leadership is communication. So for us to have a strong communication foundation and ability in communication is going to be fundamental to our success.
Right. Agree with that totally.
So you asked a few things like what is it not? I think I would prefer to go on the positive, which is I believe that successful communication is grounded in purpose. And, and we can go down this rabbit hole if you want.
Let's go. Yeah.
But I believe
I love what you just said there, which is communication has a lot to do with purpose. And, I might use a different word, but keep going with that.
So I kind of look at vision and values and mission, and those were interestingly, used and still are obviously, and are very important to articulate for not just an organization, but for an individual. Right. And when I start working with clients, especially if they're feeling a little untethered, and I don't mean that from emotionally unavailable or unhinged. I just mean that they're feeling a little adrift or lost. We do sit down and articulate what their personal values are. It's amazing. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, like asking people, in one of your keynotes and your workshops, have you ever articulated not your company, but your personal values? Everyone's got their company values. They usually have them up in the boardrooms or whatever, but in their personal values, rarely do people take the time to articulate them.
Yeah, why do you think that is? I mean, why do people have such a hard time focusing on themselves versus when the business comes and says, here's the values, we could all jump behind that?
It's the same reason why, why does the shoemaker's kid have no shoes? Yeah. And why does the communication agency fail sometimes at delivering the best communication to their team?
Right.
we do have a terrible time at introspection and self-reflection. We often are so busy at ensuring, and I can attest to this, ensuring that our clients are successful. I mean, it means a lot to me to have a successful client, to see them succeed on stage, or have them come back to me and let me know how something went and that they were positive is very positive. But so there's a rigor that we apply to our customers that we don't always apply to ourselves. And why is that? I wish I had an answer. I'd like to say that we just, for whatever reason, don't put ourselves up high enough on the priority list, if you will.
Yeah, I think prioritization is part of the issue. So let's come back to personal values. I mean, how do we create personal values? Is it creating a personal value statement that you help people with?
Look, it's not rocket science.
Right.
I really don't think it is. It's
not rocket science, but it's extremely difficult to do, and I think that's where people take these things for granted, which is
absolutely. What I'm saying is, it's actually, from a process perspective, you can go online and find a list of values. Right. Like literally, if you Google a list of values, you'll find either a page or a coaching site, and I'm not going to promote my site. It really doesn't matter. You can find a list of values. And so if you look at that list of values, you're going to find dozens probably that appeal. But really, by process of elimination, if you stop and look at them and start to circle the ones that appeal to you, so either print it out or write down the ones, and you might have a dozen values by that point. And then you start to look at the correlation between the ones that are left. If you can get them down, meaning you see that integrity and trust are very, very similar. They're very different words, but they're similar in their connection. Then you start to be able to look at, well, these are the things that the values that appeal to me. And so once you have that, you're one step closer, in my opinion, to being able to start articulating your actual purpose as a leader. We talked about purpose as leaders, and I talked about values, but purpose can be really helpful as a leader of a business. It can be helpful as a part of a business, as what's my purpose within this division, as a leader within this sector, or in your home, as a leader in the community, as a father, as a mother, as a brother. There are all kinds of things that you can actually begin to articulate your purpose. And once you do that, things start to kind of feel a little easier.
Yeah. I have a client, a CEO of a very large organization that has spent the last 5-6 years developing something called the purpose-driven strategy within their organization. And it's an old concept, and I said, where do you learn it? And I think the book was called The Story of Purpose. He's been at this for a long time. And I was chatting with him a couple of weeks ago, and I reached out to him to say, I'm working with a client right now, and they're in a senior leadership position, and they're trying to create purpose and clarity within their team and organization. I was like, I got to tell you about this guy I know, and he's done this, but he's done it with like 30,000 people. And it doesn't matter who you speak to in the organization around the world. You ask them, what is the purpose of the organization? Clear as day. But what they've done is something even more impressive, which is instead of just keeping this a corporate exercise, they've launched an internal purpose-driven strategy course or training or coaching for any individual in the organization that wants to discover and learn their purpose. And he said it so boldly. He says, sometimes we put like the team member through the course, and it's volunteer. Like anyone can do the course. Doesn't matter what position you're in the company, whether you're in the factory or whether you're in corporate office, whether you're in Asia or North America, you can do this course. And sometimes what this course or this coaching does is it brings someone up to the level of understanding what their purpose is, and their purpose misaligns with the organization. And at first I thought, wow, maybe this is problem. He's like, no, that's the best thing. That's the best thing, because the gift we gave this individual was an opportunity to go fulfill their purpose. Because the cost to us as a business obviously would have been tremendous to keep someone who's not motivated to be part of it. But I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And what you were just saying now, purpose just doesn't sit corporately. It sits within your role as a family member, as a father, a parent, for say, a sibling, as a team member, as a community, as a neighbor. Purpose is important, man.
In the 1970s, if you look at the exponential growth, meaning the adoption of mission and vision statements, so that people could understand they didn't feel like they were automatons in large organizations as they grew, right? So they didn't feel like they connected to the organization. So they said, let's create a vision and a mission for the organization. Yeah. What I found was that the embrace of the word purpose in organizations is also going through an exponential change. Yeah. And because I believe that part of what's happening, and we're seeing it, is the automation and the lack of self-reliance on human. Meaning we want to make humans better humans. Right. So how do we make those humans better humans when they're not needed in the actual workplace anymore? And so this idea of purpose is fundamental to the next stage of work development, growth, and economic growth.
Right. And I think what purpose does too is if we use the evolution of mission and vision, because you remember those days you'd walk in those old corporate offices and there'd be the posters of soar like an eagle, right? Successories, right? But I think that was also in a lot of regards to create alignment from an industrialization standpoint for work, which let's get everyone in, sitting in sort of, these positions like the factory, we're going to get them to work. Now, eventually that turned into you can't just hammer people anymore. You can't just get them to show up and say, you better punch in. This was before HR. It was called the personnel department, right? Which is like, okay, we got people in the business. And this is where the saying started to come up of look after the people will look after the business. Yeah. But it was still corporatized. It was still always used as a tool to get people to work. And I think what's very cool about purpose, the individual is driving the control of the purpose or the direction instead of the organization defining what the purpose is. And man, this is cool. I've never looked at purpose like that, which is the connection between mission and vision in the 70s versus in today's world in 2020, plus moving forward, it is about purpose.
It's one thing to understand what the big faceless organization of the past or the current is and their purpose is and how I fit into that purpose. But then how do I articulate my own purpose? So your client and their purpose-driven organization, the fact that they could literally let every single employee articulate their purpose is fascinating to me. I have a 3-step purpose practice, which allows you to articulate your purpose for communication.
All right, so walk us through that. Tell us what the 3 steps are for the...
Sure. The first step is we need to articulate what kind of communication it is. And by the way, I'm looking at this from I need to share something. I need to communicate something in a business setting. Identify what kind of communication it is.
Cool. And what are the different types of communication? Is it as simple as like this is a business thing versus this is my daughter or kid?
There are 6 different types of communication. So there's inform. So I need to inform someone or a group. I need to persuade. I need to inspire. So I need to tap into the hearts and minds of those individuals. I need to entertain is another one. I need to activate is actually the word.
There you go. Yeah.
And so there are these different types, and they can be combined, by the way.
For sure.
And so that's the first step is like look at what it is that you think that you need to share or want to share, and literally get them to fill in. Get them to fill in. And then potentially even combine.
Cool.
Second step in the 3-step purpose practice is actually articulating the what, the how, and the why of the communication. The what is the topic. So it's usually about a subject, and you want to do something about this subject. You want to engage in a particular way around this subject. So we could say, for example, communication is a subject that we could talk about as the what. The how is action around the subject. It is all about moving that subject forward or that topic forward in a unique way about your perspective around that subject. It's usually got action and verbs oriented or within. So if communication is our topic or our what, then, and I've said this in one of my talks, communication is hard work. and often taken for granted.
Right.
So
It's so funny you said that, man, because I was just sitting here saying, like, shit, this is hard. This is really hard. Like, you go to someone and you say, hey, just go say something. Well, you know why you can't say something? Because you have to do all of this stuff. This is, like you said, people take for granted.
Why is it's not the third step, it's the third part of that second step, which is the future you want to create. It's the output. And so communication is hard work, but it can be learned. And if you do, you can make the world a better place. And the third is connecting them.
Yeah.
How do you connect your what, your how, and your why? And I call them language lures. And these are just connectors. It's today I want to talk to you about what. And then your how can be used as a connector with and or but. And then, of course, you can use all kinds of connectors with to connect the why. So today I want to talk to you about communication and how it's hard work, but it can be learned and can help make the world a better place. And then you edit it all down, right? Yeah. Get rid of all those connectors and turn it into a whopping power purpose statement.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's the purpose practice.
Which is really good because, again, if it's besides sort of giving you your purpose, it's actually giving you some tools to communicate well with. And I love what you said is communication is a learnt, I'll just paraphrase, communication skills is a learnt behavior or skill.
Absolutely.
You know, people think you're born with the gift of the gab or you've just got the personality to do it. But no, great communicators learn how to communicate. We learn how to express our feelings. We learn how to articulate our ideas and thoughts. We learn how to communicate it in a volume that allows the other person to receive it, because communication has a lot to do with listening. Hey, I'm Greg Witz. Thanks so much for coming and checking out the video. If you like that video, you're going to love the next one. So I'd highly suggest that you click this video over here. And don't forget to subscribe and share.